everybody, and welcome back to the Freedom Adventure. My name's Jason and welcome to the channel. So if you've been watching any of the videos at all, or if you've been following along for a while, you're probably aware that the Freedom Adventure is a channel that all kind of centralizes around the conversion process from an old decommissioned ambulance over into what it has become over the last year, which is a miniature Class C motorhome. If it's something you're interested in, like and subscribe. We're a small channel right now. Aspirations, of course, of becoming a bigger channel, but right now we're a small channel. Every subscriber counts and every single watch hour counts, and I do rely on your support, and thank you so much for offering. Over the last year, we've been doing little projects along the way, some big projects and some little projects, but all projects in order to take this vehicle from the ambulance it started to the RV that we've got now. Along the way, there's been a lot of projects. There's been the air conditioner install, the shower build, the airhead composting toilet. We've done the MaxAir fan on the ceiling. We've installed the wooden ceiling, floors. The list just goes on and on and on. If any of that's intriguing to you, go, like I said, subscribe to the channel, but go back and check out all the videos. There's going to be something in there that appeals to you. I can almost be sure of it, especially if you're into doing the whole camper conversion routine, and that could be a camper conversion on a cargo trailer. Maybe it's an ambulance, or you know what, maybe you're just kind of bringing an old RV back to life. Either way, there's a ton of value, so check it out. So today, what I'm going to be doing is something that I've honestly kind of been putting off here for a little while. We're going to be installing a miniature Max fan into the sidewall of the camper, and the fan is going to be installed in the bathroom. The fan itself is going to pull three different duties here. There's one, it's going to be ventilation for the restroom. Two, it's going to pull humidity out of the shower when you're in there taking a shower. And then three, and probably one of the biggest reasons I want it in there, is just for the light source, because the machine that we purchased did have the option of the interior light, and it's also, of course, a fan as well. So what I've got here in front of me are all the different parts to the MaxAir fan that came with it. And that bright green thing you've got right there, that is a monster hole saw. I don't think I've ever used a hole saw that's that big. I'm having my doubts whether or not my old DeWalt drill there is going to be able to power that thing, and we're going to find that out soon enough. So the reason I've been putting this off, the main reason, is when I walled in the shower on the inside, I took the time to carefully take measurements so I'd know exactly where this thing needed to go. This is a big hole that I've got to drill, guys. I really can't afford to booger this up. And that's exactly why I took the time to take those measurements. Now, unfortunately, I lost those measurements. The good news is I do have video to reference back on, and I've got a ton of photos that I took along the way as well. I should be able to go ahead and pull those photos and pull those videos and be able to see roughly in relation to the wheelhouse on the driver's side of the vehicle where exactly, or where I should say approximately, I need to go ahead and drill the hole for this fan assembly. Because there's 2" by 2" aluminum braces that kind of act as studs when Wheel Coach build this box. And it's not that cutting through one of those would hurt anything. I just don't want to have the headache of cutting through it. They're 2" by 2", and they're probably 1/8 of an inch thick. I've already got to cut through plywood. I've got to cut through the aluminum skin on the camper. So I don't really want to add that brace to the mix. It wouldn't hurt anything structurally. This thing's built like a tank. If I had to cut through one, it's not the end of the world, but man, I don't want to do it if I don't have to. But like I said, I think I could reference back to those photos and come up with a pretty good game plan of where to put this hole at. So if this is something you're interested in, tag along for the ride. I'm about ready to get started, but before I do, let me just show you kind of what came in the box here. All right, so to start with, check that out. Man, that is an assault hole saw right there, folks. That is absolutely insane in terms of hole saws. Man, I've got one shot at getting this right, so hopefully I get it right. The fan assembly, this is the actual fan assembly. And you can kind of look at it. It's pretty basic. It's not that huge. It should do the job. It's got a button that you push right here, and basically the fan pops out. When you get done using it, you press the button again, and it closes. And this right here will be seated up against the exterior wall of the camper, And we'll be using probably some butyl tape and a set of screws in order to attach this to the outside of the camper. This is a sleeve that basically joins the outside unit to the inside unit. And if your wall is any more than about an inch thick, that's my understanding anyway, is that if I read the directions correctly, if your wall is any more than about an inch thick, you have to cut a piece of this sleeve to basically go around here. And as you can see, that thing will probably bridge up to about a 6-inch wall, I think is what the instructions said. We've got about a 2-inch wall, so we will have to use that sleeve, but nowhere near as much as what they gave us. Now, how we're going to cut that, we'll get there. So the sleeve in position, and then looking at the inside of things, altogether, that's kind of what you've got here. The inside of it, you can see this ring is the light. And this little switch right here, switch on, switch off, that's going to turn the light on and off. And down here towards the inside, there's another switch, and that is for the fan assembly itself. Once again, this sleeve makes this thing look super huge. It's not going to be. If I took that off, without that sleeve, this is essentially what you have here. So it's a little bit more tame to look at. Now, we'll get to this once we get a little further along. The first step is going to be cutting that big old hole, and then we'll go ahead and get this piece mounted in there, which is the base for the rest of the unit. Now, once this is in, basically all this is exposed to the elements. So when rain hits it, all this will get wet. And MaxAir's solution to that is this little cap that goes on here. And what this does is gives enough room for the fan to open and close, and then this little guard, the ventilated portion, gets placed downward. So if this gets rained on, this essentially just sheds all the rain over top of it. That way you don't have any leaks, and we certainly don't want that. Well, that's pretty much the basics of it. It's just a fan, and it's just a hole that we've got to drill. But nothing's ever really that simple for me, so follow along, let's go take a look, and I'll show you where exactly we're going to try to place this at, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get started. Okay, folks, well, this is the bathroom. This is our bathroom area, and I'm going to show you where on that wall exactly that we're looking at putting this. Okay, just to give you a quick little tour here, we've got the same wood on the ceiling as the rest of the camper. Right now, I don't really have a light source in there short of that little floodlight that I've got right there, and that's just plugged into 110 power, and that's certainly not something we'll be keeping. It's just an answer to the problem at hand right here. Now, we've got the plumbing that comes out of the wall here, and on this wall, I'm not quite finished yet. I need to finish the shower valve and a few other things before I case that in. Where we're looking at putting this is going to be right about there on the wall. And again, I'm going to have to just reference back to some old video and to some old photos. I should at that point be able to get a pretty good idea of where I need to go ahead and punch a hole in that wall. Now, in order to get started, I'm going to go ahead and pull that little toilet out of there. That is our Airhead Tahoe composting toilet. I do have a video on that if that's something that you're interested in. It looks like a pretty quality product. We have not tried it. At this point, it's just been sitting there waiting for that day to come. Now, underneath of that little pedestal right there is the wheelhouse for the van. I'm going to go ahead and remove that top panel, get an idea where that wheelhouse is, and in relation to the wheelhouse, I should be able to measure straight up and once again get a pretty fair idea where that hole needs to go. Okay, so I've removed the toilet out of the way, and I've took that little hatch off of the floor, and I'm sorry about the shadows here already, but again, we're limited with light in here. So this little piece right here, right there, that is the wheelhouse, or at least that is the front section of the wheelhouse. Just using that as a guide up against some photographs that I've got, I should be able to just kind of take a straight edge and run it straight up the wall and get a pretty fair idea where I need to go ahead and mark the wall so I can drill that hole. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mine some photos out of my phone here before I go any further. And my guess is we're probably looking at right about in that area right there. Once again, before I cut that hole, I'm just going to do some quick reference to some old pictures. All right, well, it took me a few minutes of looking, but I was able to find this picture. And you can kind of look at the wheelhouse and go straight up, and there's two different areas that I'm probably thinking it's going to be the answer to where to drill this hole. One is the one on the left and one on the right there, and I think I'm going to go ahead and use the one on the right. Now, the worst thing about that is it looks like it will probably be almost inside of the shower area, but it's an LED light. You know, I don't think it'll get hurt if it happens to get wet. And the other option is going to put it too far back into the nook where you have to crawl up in to use the restroom. And I just feel like it's going to be a better option to go more central towards the opening. Okay, so what it's looking like is the base of this right there. If I go straight up, that's approximately where I want to go ahead and put that hole at. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and mark up and then go ahead and mark the spot right there. All right, so pretty much straight up from there, X marks the spot. I'm a little nervous about this, but here we go, folks. I'm either going to drill into a brace or I'm not. What do you think? Time to get down. Okay, here goes nothing. Boy, this will just about break your wrist. You know what? Before I go any further, I ordered what they said I needed. This is 6 1/4 inches wide. And before I go any further, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut a hole in a random piece of board first and just make good and sure that that fan is in fact fitting the hole. This would be a terrible, terrible thing to find out after the hole's in the side of the camper. All right, man, we're good. But I still had to try it just to make good and sure. This old raggedy piece of plywood here, man, that was sacrificial, but the hole that I'm fixing to put in the wall, I can't undo that. Okay, so it appears there's going to be maybe about 1/4 inch all the way around this, but I think that's also for that sleeve to slide down into place. All right, well, enough about this. It looks like the hole's correct, so let's go ahead and get back to work. All right, got the plywood. Whew, that stinks. Entering in almost 5 minutes to drill a hole. All right, starting to get there. Oh, those are hot. All right, we're going to take a quick break here and let this drill quit smoking. Look at that. Well, the drill has quit smoking, and I'm probably 2/3 the way done with drilling this hole. So we're going to give it one more shot before we resort to maybe a Sawzall or something else. And the drill's still pretty hot. Hopefully it's going to be all right. All right, once I get a good bead of butyl tape going around here, I think it'll seat in here just fine. But yep, that's what it's going to look like. Now I just need to make sure it's somewhat centered in the hole, and I'm going to need to go get the wifey for that. All right, so we have the skin of the ambulance, which is about 1/8 inch thick, and this is plate aluminum. I went through 2 inches of foam board, which is not a big deal, but then what we've got here is 3/4 inch plywood, and this is a pretty good size hole. And I didn't show it on film, but what I did was I placed that unit up, and what I've done here is marked where it needs to go and also where I need to go ahead and start drilling my pilot holes in order to get this thing hard mounted into place. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go ahead and grab my little punch and start getting those things ready to drill, and we'll take a look at that here in just a few seconds. What I've got here is a little punch that you locate on your dots that you want to go ahead and drill the hole in. And what this does is puts just a little divot into the metal, and it keeps your drill bit from walking on you. And for the $5 or $6 this thing costs on Amazon, man, they are a lifesaver. I can't believe this drill's still working right now. I'm hoping that when I shot the video of the smoke barreling off the back of it, that really showed up, because if nothing else, it's just good for entertainment. All right, guys, so this is a piece of the side of the ambulance skin, and you can see it's no joke. It's pretty thick. I'm going to guess that's 1/8 inch, if anything. It's solid stuff. So what I'm going to do at this point is go ahead and drill some holes in this and just do some pilot holes and make sure that I've got the holes right. The hardware that they send with these products is sometimes not the most high quality stuff in the world. And before I use an impact and try to ram a screw into this, I want to make good and sure that I've got the holes the correct size, because I don't want to be sitting there with a pair of vice grips trying to back out a broken screw, which I've had to do several times in the past. This is round 2 with a little bit bigger drill bit. It never fails. I always seem to grab the bit that's too small, but I don't want to break screws, so a little bit bigger, make this a lot easier. The next thing I'm going to do is to take this fan and apply some butyl tape on the back side of it. I've used this on the Fogatti water heater that we installed. I've also installed it on the MaxAir fan, so you might have seen this before if you've seen those videos. But essentially it's just a butyl rubber, and it comes in strips. It's super pliable, and what it's going to do is basically offer a gasket that goes around this. And ultimately I'll probably end up taking some silicone and running a bead around it as well. For right now, we're going to start off with this though. Okay, well, I think that's about as good as we're going to get it eyeballing it. Let's see how this works. Now, that gasket's pretty watertight would be my guess. However, before it's all said and done, I am going to take a bead of silicone and run it around here just to make good and sure we don't have leaks. What I'm doing here is basically repeating the same process that I did here for the fan unit, for the base of the fan, only what I'm going to use is the little rain guard that goes on this. Mount to basically mark the holes where I need to screw them down, and the vent portion is down here, so it sucks the air, or actually I believe blows the air out from this section. And once again, I'm going to use the same butyl tape, put it on this as well. And I said I was going to seal this portion with silicone, but I don't see any point in doing that because it's going to have this guard on it. And once there's butyl tape on this guard and then also a bead of silicone around this, it's just not necessary. See if we can get one of these in, and we'll move forward to the next one. Man, so far it's looking really good. Well, here's the exterior finished product. The fan is in the shut position to where the shroud is actually kind of level with the fan. And then when you open it up, the fan kind of pops out in the center there. The white color, man, it's almost perfect to the ambulance. It's just kind of the same off-white that the rest of the rig is. Looking at it from the side, it really doesn't stick out too far. It does actually kind of look a lot bigger than what I thought it was going to. And for the money, I think this is really going to be a valuable product. I think this is going to work amazingly well. So what we have here is one of those times that I made a choice to put a fan in after I had put the walls up. Actually, no, that's not correct. The walls were going up. I just didn't know exactly where the fan was, so I didn't really make accommodations for the wiring. Okay, so the problem is these wires have to come up here. And there's a solid block of wood here going from here to the structure. So one of two different things. I could either get an angle drill and drill up through here, and I don't have one of those, so that's going to require a trip to the store if I did, or run a router or a multi-tool and cut a groove coming through here, over, and then up. There's two sets of wires. There's one for the fan and one for the little bezel that goes over here, and that's the light. So what I've opted to do is to break out the multi-tool, and this is really gonna kind of suck, actually. The router would work here, here, and up, and man, the router I have is a pretty big piece of equipment, and it's also mounted to a router table right now, so I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and chew through this with a multi-tool, so here goes nothing. Okay, this is working better than I thought it was going to. The idea here is basically to chew this channel out going across, like I said, to run the wires through. And there's going to be a thin piece of fascia over top of this. Likely it's going to end up being maybe a 1/4 inch plywood or even something thinner than that. And that's what's going to have the waterproof backing on it for the shower. So this isn't going to really be visible. It'll all be covered up, but it will give a channel in order to run these wires through. So for anybody out there who doesn't have one of these tools, folks, you need to get you one. I've used this in a multitude of different things, and for what it is, man, I didn't really figure it was going to be that helpful. but I've used this to do so much. I've used it from everything from trimming drywall, trimming wood. The only thing I've found that it really just didn't do worth a hoot on, honestly, is metal. And I don't think that was the tool. I think that was actually the blade I was using. Nothing smelling like burnt wood, man. Ugh. Man, it ain't the prettiest, not by a far cry, but it'll do. Before I go any further, I think I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup. I think what I'm going to do here is try to measure and get a pretty good idea of how short or long, or however you want to determine or call that, I need to make this. So what I'll do, I'm going to scribe on this tube where exactly the wall comes to. And then what I'm going to do is add probably a 3/4 of an inch to an inch on top of that. And if I'm going to err, I'm going to err in the sake of it being a little bit too long. All right, so that line looks pretty consistent. And I think what I'm going to use in order to cut this is a cutoff wheel, because this isn't real thick plastic and I should have pretty good control over that. Let me measure how deep this is from the base of this down to the inside base of here. And that should give me an idea. So I need where that line is plus whatever this distance here is. So as close as I can tell, I need to basically trim that tube about 1/2 inch longer. But it's going to need to be a little bit more than that because, like I said, I'm going to put something on top of this. And what I choose to use, I need to account for that. We're going to go ahead and cut right here on the edge of this line. I'm just going to use my cutoff wheel. About the only thing I've got that I think will work. I'm not going to use my Sawzall. Too much vibration. I can't hold this still. There's not a chance that that's going to work real well. The multi-tool, kind of the same thing. I'm up against vibration. At least with the cutoff wheel, I've got a certain level of control over that. So that's what we're going to do. Well, here's hoping I got that right, because there's no adding back to this at this point. Here's the moment of truth. This is where I either start cussing or I'm a happy camper. And we may have some cussing going on here. Actually, you know what? That might just be some fluctuations on the wall here. Even if I've got to bring this out about 1/4 inch off the wall, everything still fits. So, man, I'm good with that. Man, all in all, that doesn't look bad. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go get a drill real quick and we'll go ahead and drill those holes and get it kind of loosely but roughly mounted into place. And at least that way I can go ahead and make sure everything functions. So far it looks good, but I'm holding my hand against it. So once I've actually got screws in it, that will be solid and I'll get an idea of really what it looks like, not only from this side, but the other side as well. Now it's installed. What I'm going to do is go ahead and just hook it up and do kind of a trial run. I just want to see how bright this light is, and I guess just kind of know for sure that the fan actually works. I tested the light earlier and it worked fine, but the light is one thing and the fan is another. So I want to make sure they both work. So I need me a test lead and a jump box. Okay, well, everything's hooked up, so here's the moment of truth. I don't know what it is about my simple brain, but I just have a hard time with DC appliances where the black is positive and the white is ground. It tripped me up also when I did my ceiling lighting. I can't tell you how many times I had to go back and correct that, but it's just this mental block I've got. Can't figure it out, but here we go. All right, man, that's awesome. We've got a light. And the fan is working too. So the next thing I want to do here is I've got another light on in here, and this is a floodlight that I've just had hooked up in order to do testing. Ultimately, I feel like I'm still going to have another light in the bathroom other than this, but for right now, this is pretty awesome. So let's see what it looks like without this one on. And yep, that's barely lit up. I mean, it's bright enough to come in here and use the restroom, but definitely not enough light to really take a shower in. Not at all, especially if you're trying to shave or do something like that. So it's a start, but we've got it. And if nothing else, it's auxiliary light. So we'll just go with that here for now. We're still going to have a little bit more lighting overhead before it's all said and done. Probably actually running off this same circuit for that matter. But man, honestly, in terms of the ability to pull air, it's definitely pulling air. If I lick my hand and put it over the opening, my hand gets pretty cold pretty fast, indicating there's a lot of air moving across that. For now, I think for tonight we're done. I think tomorrow I'm going to come back to this and we'll finish up the electrical on it. But for right now, this is done for all practical purposes. Well, all right, everyone, it is now done, at least as done as it's going to get for today. There's still a little bit of electrical to finish up, but like I said, that's going to happen a little later when I do the rest of the lighting in the bathroom. But it's on, the light's on, and the fan works. So for all practical purposes, like I said, we are done. But man, doesn't that look cool? I gotta say I do. At first I was a little worried about the hue of the light, but now it's in here, it's actually kind of soothing. Matter of fact, if you wake up in the middle of the night and have to use the restroom, this is a lot nicer to look at than the hospital sterile bright blue lights. But this is it, guys. This is what it looks like. The light's on, so it's kind of bleaching out the camera just a little bit, but you can kind of get an idea and see what we've got here. And as cool as it looks from the inside, actually I think the outside looks quite a bit cooler even yet. You can see mounted up, it definitely has a presence to it. Once again, it's quite a bit bigger than what I thought it was going to be, but I like it. I think it looks good. It's always nice to see just one more thing wrapped up after all. I hope you've had a good time watching me do this. It's a pretty simple install. The only thing that was really a little bit nerve-wracking, at least to me, was drilling that massive 6.5-inch hole into the side of my camper. Now, granted, that's not that big of an ordeal, and if you watch that part, you'll understand that my drill, it may never be quite the same again. And matter of fact, I think it's pretty fair to assume that I probably ought to start shopping for a new drill here at this point. But overall, I'm fairly happy with the product. It's only in there just to vent the bathroom, and the fact that it's got a light, that's pretty sweet. Unfortunately, it's not got the capability really to light up the whole bathroom. I never really had any illusions about that. I didn't figure that that was going to be the case. We'll end up running a few other lights in here, at least one in the front, one in the back. That way it's super bright when you're in there taking a shower. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. Like I said before, if the camper conversion here that I'm doing is of any interest to you, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. What would it hurt? There's a ton of good value on there. There's a ton of cool videos when it comes to doing a camper conversion. And in our case, it just happens to be an ambulance camper conversion, but your camper conversion might look a lot different. Regardless, though, there's a ton of good information on it, which I think could be of a lot of help. That's all I've got for you today. I'm getting tired here. It's the end of a Saturday. I'm going to go ahead and call it. But I wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you who's made it this far. I really appreciate your time and I appreciate your support. There's going to be several more videos coming, not only here on the camper conversion, but also on our off-grid property, which we just attained not very long ago in southeast Oklahoma. It's an off-grid property, and for everything that I've done here on this ambulance, there's probably twice the content sitting out there just waiting on us to get there to do it. But before we do, we've got to finish this. And we're getting really, really close, and today helped us get just a little bit closer. Folks, that's all I've got for you here tonight. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy adventures, and I'll see you next time. Take care, y'all.